So, you want to come to Thailand this year, right now? Stay tuned in this video. I'm going to tell you exactly what the programs are, how you can get here into Thailand, and a step-by-step process and guide on exactly what you need to do to come to Thailand right now. Thailand is finally reopened, and in this video I'm going to talk about the different programs underneath the Thai Pass, which is what has replaced the certificate of entry that was being operated under between July and the end of October of this year, and what those three programs under the Thai Pass consist of, how you can come to Thailand, everything that you need to have in order to apply for the Thai Pass, and then finally a step-by-step guide on exactly how you apply for the Thai Pass online. The very first thing that you have to have in order to apply for the Thai Pass so that you can come to Thailand right now is you have to have a paid-for airline ticket, and preferably either a return flight or an onward ticket to show that after the end of whatever visa you're coming on, you will be able to leave the country. The airports that are currently open under the Thai Pass is the Bangkok International Airport and the Phuket Airport on Phuket Island. There is an additional airport, which is Koh Samui, but it doesn't have any direct flights from international destinations, so you have to transit through Bangkok international when you come in internationally to get to Koh Samui if you're going to go through the Thai Pass program, either through the Sandbox or through another program there. Once you've got your airplane tickets situated, the next thing that you're going to have to come to Thailand is medical insurance. And that medical insurance has to cover a minimum of $50,000 and also has to have a COVID policy in place that covers up to the full $50,000 of medical expenses should you end up being placed into a hotel quarantine. So it's very important when you're looking at those insurances to make sure that they do qualify, and that if you were to get placed into a hotel quarantine, that it's going to cover that up to the $50,000. When they look at those policies, if they do not have that, then you will be rejected for the Thai Pass. One of the insurance policies that is eligible under the Thai Pass is what is known as AXA insurance, AXA, of Thailand. You don't want to get AXA from some other location, but that insurance does cover everything that's needed underneath the Thai Pass. Now, under the old certificate of entry with the Sandbox programs, Safety Wing was covering those, but my understanding is that Safety Wing, and that's the one I use and the one that I had come in under the Sandbox program, that it is no longer going to be sufficient for the Thai Pass, because they would not cover if you had to be hospitalized for a quarantine if you showed no symptoms and did not test positive, but simply were a contact trace that forced you to have to be placed into a hotel or hospital quarantine. So after you've gotten both your plane tickets together and your insurance paid for, and you've gotten a letter from your insurance company showing that you have paid for the insurance program for the entire time that you will be staying in Thailand under the visa that you're entering under, the third step is going to be to book your hotel room for whatever program you're going to be entering under. So if it's going to be through the Test and Go program that's going to require 1 day, it has to be through a Shaw Extra Plus qualified hotel. Now, one of the best ways to go about booking one of these hotels is to go through a trusted third-party platform, such as Agoda or Hotels.com. I'm an affiliate of both of those. I personally used Agoda when I came in under the old Sandbox program back in October of this year. But the reason that it's important to use one of these third-party reputable sites is because you know that if something happens that you will get your money back and that you will not be susceptible to any shenanigans. There have been multiple reports through the Thai government and they had admitted it as well, that there were some hotels that were selling packages to people, but they did not include two very important aspects, and thus people had paid for these hotels, were denied for their Thai Pass, and were not refunded their monies by the hotels. And in some cases, some of the hotels were no longer even open at that point. They had been closed down in Phuket. So if you go through a reputable place like Agoda, you're going to be sure that yes, these hotels are what they say they are, if they say they are Shaw Extra Plus certified, and if not, Agoda is going to make sure that they give you your money back. I had an experience under the Sandbox program to where one of the hotels, the initial hotel that I had booked, did not live up to what it was supposed to do, and Agoda gave me back my money, no questions asked, had it back within 48 hours, and I was able to book the hotel that I wanted to. It's the same thing underneath this new Thai Pass program. You should really use one of those programs so that your money is guaranteed coming back and not necessarily deal with the hotels up front. Now, in these hotel programs, when you book the hotels, it's very important that two additional things are booked through that hotel. They should be included in that pass. One of those is going to be a taxi transport, a Shaw Plus taxi transport from the airport directly to your hotel. And then the second thing that is going to be required to be a part of that hotel package is your RT-PCR test upon entering Thailand, so that when you come in, that test is already paid for through that hotel program. So all of those should be included in whatever hotel package you get. They should be included in a code in the letter of certification that the hotel gives you. And that's what they will do. The hotel will give you a letter of certification that you can both download and then print out, that you're going to keep for your records for when you come into the country and before you board the plane coming into the country, and also to send to the Thai government when applying for your Thai Pass. The next thing that you're going to have is a RT-PCR test. Not a fast test or any other type of PCR test, but an RT-PCR test that has to be taken 72 hours before you actually arrive in Thailand. Now, this does not have to be done before you actually apply for the Thai Pass online, but it is something that you're going to have before you enter on that airplane to come to Thailand, and obviously before you land in Thailand. That RT-PCR test, and it's very important to emphasize this, has to be taken 72 hours before you actually arrive in Thailand. So it's not the time that you board the plane plus 72 hours to come to Thailand, it's when you land on the ground. So you need to take into account the time differences between what Thailand time is and what the time is where you're coming from, and the amount of hours that you have between the time that you take that test and receive the results and the time that you land on the ground in Thailand. Now, once you have your flights, your health insurance, your letter from the hotel certifying that you are prepaid for your hotel and that you have the PCR test paid for, and you have a Shaw taxi that is going to take you from the airport to the hotel, and you have arranged to have your RT-PCR test to come into Thailand, the next thing to do is gather all of the documents, other than the test to come into Thailand, together. I would suggest having printed out copies as well as digital copies on there. And the ones that you're going to want to upload to the Thai website that I'm going to show you need to be in a JPEG format. Now, under the old certificate of entry, it was perfectly fine to use PDF documents. In fact, I used PDF documents, didn't have any problems. But people have been getting rejected, or their documents haven't been being uploaded if they have been using JPEG under the new Thai Pass system. So the best thing to do is comply with what the actual website requests, which is the JPEG format. They also say on the website that they will accept the PNG, but all reports have been so far that the JPEG, if they were uploaded in that format, have worked fairly flawlessly. Once you have all of those documents ready, you're almost ready to go to the Thai Pass website and start uploading your information and applying for your Thai Pass. But you're going to need one more piece of information and one other document in order to do that. So you want to take your passport, and you either want to take a picture of the biometric page, or you want to get a scan of that biometric page. Again, this will need to be in JPEG format. It doesn't need to have the top half of the passport, just that biometric page. You're going to need that so that you can upload that to the Thai Pass website. All right, so you've got all of your documents, you've got your plane flight, you've got your insurance letter, you've got your certificate from your hotel attesting that you've paid for your RT-PCR test on arriving in Thailand, as well as your Shaw taxi to come in, and you've got your biometrics page of your passport. It's time to head on over to the Thai Pass website, and I'm going to show you step by step on what you need to do to fill that out in order to come to Thailand right now. So when you first go to the Thailand Pass page, where you're going to go is the address is at the top, tp.consular.go.th. That'll get you to the website, the official website for the Thailand Pass. And when you get onto the page, it's going to have you choose whether you're a national, that doesn't apply to anyone here, or a non-Thai national. So click on the non-Thai national, and that will bring you to this. Hit English language, and it'll move you on to the different categories. The first category is going to be the Test and Go, and that program is what most of you will be doing. It's open to select countries. You will have to have spent at least 21 days, consecutive days, in the country that is eligible. So for instance, if you were in Serbia and it was eligible, you couldn't have spent the last 10 days in Serbia and the rest, say, in Montenegro. It had to be all 21 consecutive days in the country. It's also only eligible to fully vaccinated people who have been fully vaccinated no less than 14 days before traveling. Now, this program allows you to come into Thailand, take a test before you come, take a test when you land, book a one-night hotel, and when that test comes back negative, then you're free to go about the country as you wish. The second program is going to be the traditional sandbox program, and that's the program that I came in under originally back in October and was in place basically for most of the world between July and the 1st of November of this year. Under the Sandbox program, that's eligible to any fully vaccinated traveler from any country in the world that is currently not on the banned list because of the new variants that are out. In that case, you could book a hotel for 7 days. You'll have to take a total of 3 tests. One of those tests is going to be before you come in. The second one is going to be after you have arrived. And then the last one is on the final day that you would be in the Sandbox program. Once you've tested negative for all of those, you would be released. The final one would be the alternative quarantine. This is where you'd have to quarantine for a minimum of 10 days up to 14 days in a hotel. Approved, that all has to be prepaid, but that can be done by people who are not vaccinated, who have no vaccination whatsoever. I really won't go over that because I don't recommend that anybody who's not vaccinated come into Thailand right now, because you will be interfered with on your ability to travel even domestically by flights and stuff. It's not that you can't do it. You have to take tests and stuff, but it really is a pain, and in my opinion, it's just not worth it right now. So I'm mainly going to focus on this Test and Go. So the documents that you'll need is going to be the passport, visa. Most of you will be coming in under a visa exemption or a visa on arrival. Your certificate of vaccination from your home country. the letter certifying that I talked about previously in the video from your hotel, showing that you have paid for it and that you have the test. Hit select. And this page is going to tell you everything that could happen to you, that you're acknowledging, that you're telling the truth here, that you acknowledge that all of these are required. Hit certify and confirm. This gives you your purpose for arrival. For most of you, that is going to be travel. So you check that. And then select the country that you will be departing from. This is not the country that you are a citizen of. It's the country that you are going to be departing from. Then your first port of arrival, I'll choose, I guess, Bangkok here. Your flight number. And then you are going to put in your date of arrival in Thailand and your estimated date of departure, which will depend upon the visa that you have. So we'll keep this under a month. And then you hit register when complete. You confirm that you agreed to all of this. Okay, and it brings you the first of 4 pages. The first one's going to be your personal information. Second one's going to deal with vaccinations. So you hit your title, your name, enter that information. Oops, I guess I need to make up a middle name. And hit your nationality. I'm from the United States. Sometimes it'll say United States, so we'll scroll to the end to see there. Sometimes it'll say American. It just depends. And your date of birth. We'll make something up here. Make myself look old. And you'll then put in an email address, confirm your email address. Again, here they suggest using a Gmail. They tell you do not use a Hotmail or an Outlook. So I would just, make a Gmail account. Put in your occupation and your passport. For most of you, that is going to be an ordinary passport. Put in the number. And once you've got this done, you'll go down here and you're going to put in the JPEG that you have done of your biometrics page of your passport. And if you look over here to the right, they're showing you don't want the upper page, you just want the bottom page with the actual biometrics that you previously took a picture of, and then you'll upload that by either dragging and dropping the files, or you can browse the files and pull it and drop it in there. Now you have to put that in order to proceed. If you don't and you hit next, then it's going to give you a warning screen that you do have to attach that passport photo. Then you go on to the second page, which is going to be the vaccinations on that page. Okay, so after you've done your personal information page, you're going to go onto your vaccination page. I won't pull it up here because I'm not going to upload fake documents into their system. But the vaccination page asks you to put in a JPEG of your vaccination certification. So if you're from the United States, that'll be your CDC card. If you're from somewhere in the European Union or another country that actually issues you a QR code, you can actually just scan that QR code and take a picture of it. And that is actually what the Thai government would prefer if you are from a country that does that. The next thing you're going to want to do is plug in the information on the vaccination page manually that shows what vaccination you received and what dates you received that vaccination on. So if it's Moderna or if it's Pfizer, you simply enter it in there and then the date that you actually took each and every dose. After you completed that, you'll move on to the contact and accommodation page. This is where you're going to give the Thai government your cellular telephone number in your home country as well as your permanent address. You will enter an emergency contact number and address and person. That person can be in Thailand or they can be in your home country or somewhere else. It's just whoever you want contacted in case of an emergency. Also on this page, you're going to put your accommodation details for the hotel that you have booked, and you're going to upload in JPEG format that certification letter from the hotel showing that you have prepaid for it, you do have the taxi, and you have paid for your RT-PCR tests. Again, all of that needs to be in JPEG format. And then finally, once you have completed that portion, you're going to go to the medical insurance and additional documents. Now, the medical insurance will issue you a letter, depending upon what company you went through, that shows not only are you covered for a minimum of $50,000, but also that COVID is covered for that same amount in case you have to be quarantined in a hotel, or excuse me, in a hospital for COVID. And you do need to upload a copy of that letter in JPEG format. At the end of that page, it will ask you for additional supporting documents. You should not need anything other than the ones that we went over with here. And once those are all done, it'll ask you to complete the registration. You submit to complete the registration. It will upload all of those documents to the website, and you should get an approval according to the Thai government within 5 to 7 days. However, some people have been reporting that they get them back almost instantly through their email account, and some people have reported that it's taking longer. So your mileage will vary. Again, I would highly, highly recommend giving plenty of time before you complete this Thai Pass, before your trip actually will occur. According to the Thai website and to the embassies, it takes approximately up to 7 days to process the Thai Pass so that you'll be able to come into Thailand. Personally, I recommend giving it at least a minimum of 2 weeks to do this before you plan on just coming in on a flight, so that you, if there are any slip-ups, you will have time to correct those and you won't be out a lot of money. There have been reports of people taking up to 2 weeks on there. I've also heard people that have basically completed the form, and the Thai Pass was back in 60 seconds to their email address. So your mileage may vary if you do everything and you use the JPEG formats. There's also been some reports out there that if you use Gmail, that is one of the fastest ways to make sure that all of this works appropriately and quickly. On the site itself, it tells you not to use an Outlook email or a Hotmail. I would assume that any other emails that are similar to those would be ones to avoid, and simply just use an email. If you don't have a Gmail, it's easy to set one up, but use what they're asking for. That way you'll have as flawless a process as possible. All right, if you've completed all of those forms and you've been approved for your Thai Pass, you're well on your way to coming to Thailand. I hope you have a great trip. I hope everything goes well for you, and we'll see you here in Thailand either in December or the first of the year.